Alright, this is a question I received today. I think it's a good question. What rule changes would you make to the UFC? You said the UFC was recently sold for $4 billion. You said in one of your previous videos that whoever brought the UFC could have the power to change it. If you brought the UFC, what rule changes would you make so that the UFC would actually represent the true martial arts? Okay, so true martial arts to me, first off, would be people that wouldn't be participating in this way of, hurting other people for money and profit. Like, that's not true martial arts. Like, even if the rules change to what I would make them be, that wouldn't be martial arts. Martial arts is something where you would have to conduct it more in a controlled, private setting. It's not going to be where you're going to actually really hurt somebody really bad for money, fame, and profit. Like, that will never be true martial arts, no matter what rules there are. Okay, that's just what it is. Like, art is something where it's creative and beautiful. Like, for example, there's just some terror attacks in France right now. The person was like plowing over a bunch of pedestrians. That is not art, that's just straight violence. But something like a video game, like say Grand Theft Auto 5, which is pretty much, you could do whatever you want in that video game. In the video game you could plow over people, you could shoot people. Like, that's art. Like, that's not real violence. And that's what I'm talking about. Like, the act is the same. You're plowing over people in the video game, you're killing 80 people in the video game, but it's a video game. That's what makes it art. You're not actually hurting the people. It's like you're digitally hurting these things on the screen. That's not real. That's art. Okay? The developers of that game and all things of that nature, that's art. You're not actually hurting them. But what happened in France, that is not art. That's just straight violence. It's the same act. Plowing over people with a car, shooting down people. But because it's real and you're inflicting pain and misery and death onto the people, that is not art. Okay? So Bruce Lee, beating up people in a movie, that is art because it's a movie. But the same person in the cage beating up people in the cage, no matter how he does that, no matter if it's boxing, wrestling, cage fighting, or whatever, Sansao, Muay Thai, or whatever sporting event, or on the streets, when you're actually beating up people for money, profit, and fame, that is not art. It will never be art. So just to get that clarified, it can never be art when you're inflicting real pain on the other people, severe pain, without regard to, the risk that they're getting involved in. That is never art. Okay, so now the rules that I would change to make it more realistic to what real fighting would be this. People would be required to wear shoes because everybody wears shoes out there, okay, on the streets. So people would be required to wear shoes. You don't have to wear it, but you can, okay? I won't say you're required, but you can wear shoes if you want. It could be any type of shoes you want to wear. You could wear any uniform you want. You could wear a uniform, you could go shirtless, you could wear a gi, you could wear jeans, you could wear a suit, you could wear a soldier's outfit, you could wear whatever you want, as whatever you would want to wear. You could wear what you want to wear. You could put on winter gloves if you want to, or you could have like just everyday gloves out there, like weightlifting gloves, biking gloves. You could wear some gloves if you want, or you could just go bare fist. So like, you could wear what you want to wear. You could wear shoes, you could have gloves, or you don't have to have gloves. Okay, if it's going to be unarmed combat, okay, then there's not going to be any weapons, no guns, no batons, no knives, no external weapons that you could use. You can only use your body. So then we're gonna restrict the weapons because, okay, we want to assess to see what is the most effective method of unarmed combat, okay, in this situation. So no weapons, right? Okay, so basically you could fight and do whatever you want to do, okay, a real fight. So you could eye jab, you could kick them in the knee, you could kick them in the groin area, you could bite them, you could pull their hair, you could eye gouge them. I don't know if I said that. You could do whatever you want to do, okay, whatever. Okay, now there can be a ref. The ref could basically stop the fight when he feels that it's just getting too gruesome. He could stop the fight. Okay, you could do whatever. You could break their arm, you could break their leg, you could choke them. The ref could stop the choke before you die. The ref could, stop the arm, call the fight before your arm gets broken. The ref could do that if he wants. Okay, the fight would not occur in a cage. The fight would happen outside. Okay, it could be on the grass area, or it could be like on pavement. How people, like a basketball court out there, and a big old basketball court. Okay, it'd be something they could fight on there. There's not going to be a ring. There's not going to be a cage. It's just going to be regular environments, like either on pavement, or on the grass or whatnot. Okay. So anything goes. You can do whatever you want to do. There can be a ref. The ref can call the fight. Okay. And basically, when you lose, you could surrender. You could also surrender if you want. But if you surrender, then you can never compete again, because that represents death. And if you tap out, you will never compete again. That represents death. If you get knocked out, you will never be able to compete again. That represents death. If the ref calls the fight and says that they need to stop the fight because you're taking in too much damage, then you can never compete again, because that represents death. Then, if that is satisfied, what I just stated, then it'd be a realistic, very realistic, scientific assessment of what real combat would be like and what would really work opposed to what would not work. Other things that are a factor: there would be no weight classes, there would be no gender differentiations, and no age differentiations. So anybody at any age could fight whoever. A man could fight a woman if he wants. Or a woman can fight a man if she wants. And it doesn't matter the weight class. A 300-pound person could fight a 100-pound person if they want. But the rule stands for, if you lose one time, you're done. Your career is over. You cannot compete again. It's over. Then, if all that is satisfied, then I would be, I wouldn't be supportive of it, but I would acknowledge it as a way of assessing the reality of real combat. Of what you need to do, what you need to really study in order to better assess the proper training methods towards true survival on the streets in unarmed combat only, not in armed combat, because that's a whole nother story. Okay, so essentially, some people could lose in the first fight and then that's it, they're done, they can never come back. Some people could win 5 in a row, okay, then after that, and they lose, then they're done. Somebody like Ronda Rousey, okay, she could win 10 and then she loses the 11th one, okay, she's done, she'll never come back. But the difference is, they're they're fighting people of their own weight class, own gender, same age. Another thing is, this is another thing, no assessment of their history. You will not be told how much training he has, what style he's trained in, how old he is, how tall he is, how much he weighs. None of that information will be given to you. You're not, basically, this is another thing, you will not be allowed to even know who you're fighting. The fight will be arranged, but you will not know who you're fighting. So you cannot prepare. You don't know if you're fighting against a man, a woman, somebody that's taller than you, shorter than you, weighs more than you or weighs less than you, weighs the same as you. You don't know what they're trained in. You don't know what style, or if they even train in any style. You just do not know anything about your opponent. That is an important factor too, that has to be put into there as well. So the event would pretty much be broadcasted live, and the audience wouldn't even know who's fighting until it's actually happening. So then there's no preparation whatsoever. Like, you just have to respond to the moment of whoever you're fighting at that moment. If all of that is satisfied, then I would acknowledge that as to be, this is a test. This is the experiment. This is the science of combat, of what you're supposed to analyze, what you're supposed to practice and prepare for the streets, as far as unarmed combat is concerned. Okay, and that this would be just an assessment of one-on-one combat. Two-on-one or three-on-one or four-on-one just wouldn't be, it'd just be too lopsided. It'd just be absolutely unfair, and people would just get demolished, having to face so many people at once. So it'd be a one-on-one affair, and that's how I would change, everything. Somebody like Mayweather, if he could go 49-0, then he would be the number one, to ever partake in this, challenge, and it basically be the person that could last the longest, who could win the most fights in a row without losing, and then once you lose, you're done. Like, never come back. And there might be a death in the cage, or not in the cage, in the, there might be a death as a result of this engagement. Not just a death, but many deaths. It just depends on how well the referee is trained, and whether or not he's going to stop the fight, or if he's going to allow it to continue. If he allows it to continue and he makes a poor judgment, then there will be a death, or many deaths, and then there will be broken kneecaps, broken arms, missing eyes. This is another thing. There'd be absolutely no mouth guards, no protection, no groin protections, none of that. You cannot wear any protective body gear. You just gotta wear the regular clothes that you wear out there. So, but yeah, that's how I would do it. That's how I would do it.